Well, hello everybody. Welcome to my discussion here of virtual and augmented reality. I should point out right off the bat that I also uploaded about a 5-minute description or explanation of augmented reality that I got off of YouTube. And so you may want to look at that as well. Take about 5 minutes and it will focus a lot. It focuses totally on augmented reality. And I'm going to talk about both, but I'm going to focus mostly on virtual reality. Okay, so anyway, we'll talk about virtual reality. First thing I want to talk about is this nature, culture, and VR. Okay, there's a well-known, I'd call her a media philosopher, Mackenzie Wark in Australia, who describes 3 levels of nature. The first one is regular nature, what you and I live every day, the birds and the bees and the trees and the grass and all that kind of stuff. Then we have the second nature, which is the built and institutional environment. All the houses and buildings and parks and everything that we create as people, so anything man-made would be in that second nature. The third nature is the one we're going to focus on. That is the imaginary environment. Okay? And historically, if you think about it, you read a story, you read a novel, it's made up history. You create a reality. If you ever write one, you know that. You can feel it. In oral history, films, television, radio, poems, all of those are imagination, from the imagination, creative. Anything that's kind of creative comes from imagination. So we're going to focus on that in virtual reality. So when we talk about reality, what are we talking about exactly? Well, before we talk about that, let me think about this for a second. Virtual reality is really replacing reality. That's the whole point of virtual reality, is we're going to take reality, we're getting rid of it, and we're going to put in its place something called virtual reality, as opposed to augmented reality, which is when we just add something to reality. We take a real situation, a real scene, and we superimpose some kind of digital something on it, a graphic, a video, text, whatever. Both of these are going to be complex. They have complex combinations of computer technology, and they'll have virtual reality hardware and augmented reality hardware and that kind of thing. But those are the basic difference between the two things. So look at it this way. We have true reality at one end. At the other end, we have virtual reality. And in the middle, we have augmented reality, where it's just adding to true reality. If you get all the way over to virtual reality, you've changed something, okay? It's not augmented anymore. It's virtual reality. So virtual reality systems generate a combination of the real scene and a virtual scene. We have the real thing, and then we're going to superimpose on that something that's not real. The virtual material is generated by a computer to augment a real scene and additional information. So we're superimposing the computer-generated effects into a person's view of the real world. Now, VR, different. First, we talk about virtual reality suggests William Gibson's concept of cyberspace. I mentioned this. He did a book. William Gibson's an author. He wrote a book in 1984 that was called Neuromancer, and it mentioned the term cyberspace. So everything became sort of cyberspace as we talked about things that were not real. And so he became sort of the godfather of cyberspace and of virtual reality. So virtual reality is an almost but not really reality that exists in the realm of cyberspace. It's a reality created and mediated by computer technology. The key to this is there's no geographical location. We can't go there. It looks and feels real, but it doesn't exist. And that's what virtual reality is. Virtual, just by the name, virtual means not real. If you go to the car dealer and he says he's going to sell you a car with virtual leather seats, your seats are not leather. They're almost leather, but not quite. That's what virtual is. If we go back in time, I'm going to go back to the early 50s. This was this game. I used to play this myself. Not in the early 50s. I don't go back that far. But Sensorama. Sensorama was you can see this guy in this picture. He's putting his head inside there, and that's what you did. You put your head in there, and you couldn't hear anything outside, and you were immersed into another reality. Now, that term virtual reality wasn't coined until Jaron Lanier did it in 1989. However, the concept was around a long time before he came up with a term for it. Morton Halig's Sensorama, which I'm showing you there, was a type of virtual reality. So they had the idea, they had a concept way back in the 50s. They didn't have the technology that we have today in order to make it come off like we would like for it to. And that's the big difference. It was a limited factor. If we look at our ecosystem, it was a limited factor because it didn't have the technology. Nevertheless, it was used somewhat. The Air Force tried to use it to help pilots get trained to be pilots. And they used it as a flight simulator, which became a very popular program, by the way, later on. And today, they are still using Flight Simulator to train people to be pilots. That's one of the main uses of it in the military. Now, early on in the VR, the trouble was we lacked interactivity. Didn't have enough action between the user and the program. So in the 1980s, they started to merge the head-mounted displays, which they had already developed those way back then. They would merge those with sophisticated computer graphics to form 3D interactivity. So you can see right there, we want interactivity and we want 3D graphics. Those are two things we want in VR, okay? These developments have been in applications of the technology more than in the concept. In other words, when we were doing Sensorama, they knew the concept. They just didn't have the technology. And so the applications, the developments have been in the technology, not in the concept. So I call these precursors of computer-mediated communication, computer-mediated VR. Oral history, literature, drama, TV, radio. These are all things that we use our imagination. And so in that sense, they were in that third nature, which is where we are talking about virtual reality. But these were the things that came forward. But as you know, there was very little, or if any, interaction between these. And of course, 3D graphics didn't exist either. Okay, let's take a look at what are the components of VR then. Okay, we have high levels of interactivity. We have 3D computer-generated graphics, and we're going to have high levels of feedback that's going to be used to give you an individual experience. So, for example, if I'm playing with some kind of VR device, and I say on there for some reason, I like dogs, and you go on the same device and you say, I like cats, we're going to get different feedback. It's going to be individualized based on what we say, what kind of input we give the VR device, it will kick back. And you can anticipate as AI gets more and more involved in this, it's going to be more and more real. Okay? Because we have various levels of immersion. For example, we can go to, when we talk about immersion, this is the whole goal of VR. We have desktop immersion, which you can get on your computer, on your desk, or you get on your mobile device or on your laptop. It's not quite as the same as if you can get it totally immersed, but it is immersion. We also have projected immersion, which is kind of fun, where we project it onto a screen someplace or onto a wall or whatever, and we get the 3D graphics, and it looks like, oh, they're going to, attack us and this kind of thing. But the 3D graphics build environments that for large-scale collaboration a lot of times, and for the experience of just having what a computer is, a two-dimensional, height and width, computer screen, but what you can do with 3D is you can add a third dimension, which is why they call it 3D, third dimension. Okay, I'm going to stop here in my discussion, and I'm going to start another version. We'll talk about some of the other things with the other aspects of the VR system. But I want to give you a break here, so I'm going to stop here, and you can take a break and come back and listen to part 2 whenever you feel like it.